Just
Tony,
jump in. What's happening, cuz? Man.
What is happening?
Oh, man. How many days till Christmas? It's coming fast.
10 days. 10 days.
Coming in
I
hot.
believe that's right, yeah. Or
Coming
I guess
in hot.
11 days.
I still have some Christmas work to do.
Yeah. Yep. My wife was trying to get me to put some lights up on the house here yesterday. I was like, yeah, I don't really do that. Don't we have a service? Yeah. So this is a little bit more different kind of house. There ain't no shingles, that you could really. Yeah, I ain't trying to mess with that.
No Griswold connections, huh?
Can't. No. Oh, well, it could have been done. Yeah, but we just, we didn't get a tree till you couldn't get trees was the problem. So different challenges here for sure. But we'll be prepared.
The thing, man, I remember, the time in California and, man, this time of the year, it never felt like Christmas, like it would here, where it gets cold a little bit. And, it never really, I don't know. I bet is it kind of tough? It doesn't feel like Christmas.
It does not feel like Christmas. There's quite a bit of Christmas stuff going on and Christmas parties and all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Well, even think when we were in Dallas, right? We can go into the neighborhood there, your neighborhood, and go into the park, and they had, all the festivities. I mean, it felt like Christmas.
Right.
Yeah. So what's good, man? We had a great week last week. Appreciate all of you guys that are tuning in that were able to come into Dallas and see us for boot camp. It's the first live one we've been able to do in 2 years. And it was amazing.
It was epic as usual.
What was your big takeaway?
Man, I haven't done this since 2012. You kind of get you have some of those aha moments from time to time, when there's breaks in between, but just the value of being in the room and the connections that are made and the conversations that happen, outside of the room are oftentimes, some of the most valuable things that you get from those types of events, being in a live environment. And so that's things that we know, just, again, just making that real again, and recognizing it. So you can get into a lull, after the last couple of years of, not traveling and not wanting to travel, maybe because you kind of like staying put like a potted plant. And so, getting out of your comfort zone and getting into a room like that is it's just incredibly powerful.
How many times have we said that to where we don't want to go? We have the hesitation, we kind of resisted a little bit, but then when we get there, I don't know how many times we've been on the escalator at the airport saying, God dang, I can't believe we almost missed that.
Yeah.
And so
life-changing moments, big decisions happen at big events. You pick up things that you never could possibly get otherwise, relationships, things of that nature.
Well, you have those collisions, right? Yeah. You have those collisions in the hallway, back and forth to the bathroom, between breaks, grabbing some lunch, grabbing some dinner. And you have those little interactions that you don't get anywhere else when you're in your market. And so being able to get out of that, get out of your comfort zone, being able to connect, and it really is, it's a powerful thing. And I know you had mentioned that to me, and we're on the calendar next week to talk about events into the future. So all of you guys, stay tuned. We're committed to being live a lot more often. I know we still owe a mastermind, and we definitely want to fulfill on that at a high level. But we have some other great events that we can really add a ton of value to you guys on a high level, and we're looking forward to that. So, Max, appreciate that, buddy, and great conversation last night. And so, get those things dialed in, and let's go, man. There's just a lot. Trying to think, man, there's a lot. Hey, appreciate you guys tuning in. If you have any questions, anything on your mind, things you need to get clear on to wrap up the year, heading into the new year, heading into 22, throw it into the comments, and we'll unpack and help you with anything that you're wrestling with. And here's what we've always told our teams. If you're not stuck, the only reason you're not stuck or trying to figure out a riddle or trying to figure out something is because you are not doing anything.
That is the unfortunate truth. If you're not in the middle of the struggle, then you're probably just being comfortable. So
I was on the recommitted back to the training, and so I got 2 hours on the bike this morning, and
oof.
I was trying to finish up the gap in the gain. I'm on the last chapter, and they brought up a great point. One of my favorite books, and it's something that I think comes instinctively. Well, nothing comes instinctively, right? It's all driven by environment or circumstance. So,
right.
They unpack that, really you live in the gap. If you even live partially in the gap, you're in the gap. And so it's in the gain of where you're always at. But, one of the last little things that they're starting to unpack, and I haven't finished the last chapter, but what Ben's kind of talking about is that you have to, I captured the note because I wanted to share that today. And then I'll share the book and the principle, and I always love hearing your story. It's the Kenny Chesney story in Frisco, but
Right.
It was so if you remain flexible and always looking for a way, it keeps you in the game. Settling for the it talks about this. It's the meaning you choose to give it. Looking for meaning puts you in the gap. So if you're looking for meaning, if you're like, oh man, I'm looking for this, where's the excuse? What can I give it? That puts you into the gap. That's the negative thinking, disempowering thinking.
Right.
But if you choose to give the meaning to it, and they talk about Viktor Frankl, what he said,
right.
and the story that they shared in there was that, because his wife died the next day, right? They go in, she dies the next day. And, he's sitting there a couple days later, and he looks at his wedding ring, and he takes it off and he throws it away. And what he says is that she's not on my finger anymore, but she's still in my heart. And that was the meaning he chose to give to it.
Right.
And so we always say that. What else could it mean? What's the meaning that you want to give to it? What's the truth? But the story he starts to share is the third door, right? I've shared that story with you many of times, right?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
that book, The Third Door, is that there's always three doors. And the concept that he gives is like a nightclub, is that you have the front door where the herd mentality try to get to. 99% try to go through that door. They can't, most of them don't ever get in.
Right.
Then you have the side door, the VIP entrance, right? Celebrities, VIPs, uber wealthy can pay their way in. And then there's the third door. There's the back door. There's the window. There's your way through the kitchen. It doesn't matter. You get in, right? I remember finding, at that, I won't throw them under the bus completely, but right. I remember that at Mastermind and EGS, where I had to find the third door for Reese, and we ended up going through the kitchen, the service elevator, up through the back door, out the service
right.
elevator into his room.
Right.
And that's just that type of thinking.
Right.
You got to share the Kenny Chesney story. This is the perfect concept of it.
Yeah, and it started with. It just started. There's this. I don't know, how you develop this mentality, but I'm just not going to do if there's a line that's 10 miles long and everybody's in it. There's no way in the world I'm going to do that. There's absolutely always another way, and that is the concept, but. It started with OU Texas is where it started. And, I remember seeing this long line and, all the arrows and all the lights and everything was pointing people into this one lane, and it was backed up for miles and miles and miles. And I was like, there's gotta be another exit, right? Like there's no way that this is just the only way to get there. And so we literally drove just 1 mile past the exit where everybody had been waiting in that line. There was nobody in 3 lanes of traffic. It was just crazy. Drove all the way down, pulled right up next to the place where you go into the state fair, and pulled right up and parked. And it was the easiest thing I've ever seen happen. And like there's so many people that waited there for hours. And the same thing with Kenny Chesney. I was trying to tell my kids, we were going to a Kenny Chesney concert, and the same thing. And it was a line. It was in Frisco at the whatever that it's not Dr. Pepper. That's the other one. Whatever that one's called.
Yeah. That's Toyota Stadium.
Toyota Stadium. And I was telling them we'd recorded it. I don't have the video because it was like this was so long ago. It was like it wasn't an iPhone. This was put that way.
No, it was probably the little flip camera.
Right, it might have been. And I was like, you see this right here? You see this? you don't ever wait in lines like this. If you see all the sheep going one direction, you go the other. And we literally did the same thing, went past the exit and literally pulled right around and parked right up front. It was like the craziest thing. And it happens almost every time. You just got to be looking for that third door.
Yeah.
You know, it's always there.
You know what's freaking crazy is that we've been to OU, Texas. I think I've been with you maybe 3 times or 4 times. We go the same way every time, and it's the same, no traffic every time.
Yeah,
it's like,
right.
You would think over 10 years, people would catch on and go that way, but it's
Right.
it's still the same way, because that's 99% are the herd. And if you want to excel or get anywhere in your life, you've got to be flexible in your thinking. And this is what comes down to a powerful destination, right? Like, we knew we were getting to the state fair. We were just looking for all the ways to get there.
Right.
We knew we were getting to X number of partners. We were just looking for the best way to get there.
Right.
And like, when you get that, right? When you get that, and the reason too, most of them they just don't know where they're trying to go. Oh yeah.
That's so true.
Where it tells us to go.
Yeah. It's a very, or maybe they don't have the right, the right vision. You think it's, getting to 200 or 300 transactions or whatever. That's not really the goal. You got to be flexible with that as well. But you got to have something. You got to be moving in a direction towards something. If you don't have that clarity that that's where you're trying to get to, then you're not gonna take the right actions and get there. It just doesn't happen.
Here, this was a perfect example. So Roland Frazier was doing this exercise, and he had this maze, right? He had the picture of a maze, and he had where you start, and he said, and where you end, and he said, get to the destination as fast as you can.
Right.
So he just lets everybody go through the exercise.
Right.
And he says, all right, who got there the fastest? And everybody like trying to figure it out, whatever. He said, no. He said, you could just go around the maze and get to the destination.
Right.
Or you could fly right over the maze to the destination.
Right.
It's up to you. There's a way to get there. You don't have to go through the maze.
Right.
And, that was just like another light bulb moment. It's like, oh my gosh, right? Like,
That's
what are
great.
all the ways to get to the destination? And so it's such a powerful thing, because when you remain flexible, it keeps you in creativity. It keeps you in the game and not getting bogged down. And man, it's such a powerful concept. So it was just great.
Let me give you another example of this too. So on the flip side, so in 07-08, right? So literally, for those of you who weren't in the business,
shitstorms,
you can imagine. For those of you that are, congratulations. We all wear the same scars from that. And it was the first year that we never, the first year of anything less than just ridiculous growth. So like it was getting hit in the face with a 2x4 for sure. But it got to the point where, all my flips, had to turn into rentals, all this stuff, and all this stuff is happening. The market's going down, all these things. A ton of bad things were happening. I mean, across everything I was doing, everything couldn't be getting any worse. And I remember as we started to come out of that, I was tapped at the bank, all my lines of credit, all my properties, everything. There was nowhere to get money. Like, there just was nothing. And all I could do was chip away at this huge, massive debt that I just, created during that shitstorm. And there was some deals that started to come on the market, and we knew the deals when we would see them, but I still couldn't go. I couldn't go to the bank and start flipping properties yet. I wasn't in a position. They weren't going to loan me any more money. And so, it would have been easy to just say, well, that's just not an option. I'm just going to go back to, the grind and nothing else. But you start looking for ways, and it didn't take me long to figure out, who do you know, right? Who do you know that you could partner with on these deals that can be the money, and you can just bring deals. And so I got back into flipping properties and brought my dad in, which I would, normally that was one of the times that we worked really well together, because he didn't have to do anything and he made a lot of money.
Yeah.
But that was, there's always something, man. There's always a move you can make. And it's when you start thinking differently about, well, if you had to do it, somebody put a gun to your head, like, start thinking outside the box. There's nothing that you can't accomplish if you really put your mind to it. There's always a way.
Man, those are some great questions. I know Peter Thiel, says, hey, you got this 10-year vision, why can't we do it in 6 months? And then, Tim Ferriss and I know Frank Kern, they have the gun to head theory, right? So if you had a gun against your head, you had to figure it out in X number of time, you would figure it out.
Yeah.
And so it's just that challenge. And we've talked about this book, I think when 16 or 17, whenever it came out, it was our number one book recommendation for the year. And it was Ben Horowitz's book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Man, that's a great book.
And if you guys are in any type of struggle, Hard Thing About Hard Things, Ben Horowitz. It's one of the most powerful. I would say probably still, it's in our top 10, maybe even top 5 book recommendations of all time.
If you're going through some shit, it's in the top 5 for sure.
For sure. For sure. But to that point, what you just said, he said that there is always a move. The only time that you don't have a move is when you give up. And you have to believe that. And I think, we've had confirmation and circumstance throughout the years that I know you and I both believe it. Our tight circle believes that you always have a move. There's always an option. You are never out until you give up. And so we just believe that at the core. And man, I cannot recommend that book enough. I think I read it. I think I listened to it a couple times before I sent it to you.
Oh,
I was just making sure.
Right. Yeah.
But it was perfect timing too for what we were going through. That book it resonated at such a deep level. Yeah,
it was very, very, very well written, man. And I have a lot of respect for Ben Horowitz and the shit he's been through. Like that's the kind of mentor you want. You don't want somebody who's never gone through really difficult challenges, because that's really where you learn the most. And, and some conviction around what not to do. But that is for sure.
He's an OG and probably up there. Might be close to being on Mount Rushmore in Silicon Valley, for sure, for what he's done. Man, I want to shift over. Made my first real blue marlin relationship today, man. So this is, Coach Burt's, concept, right? You can either have bluegill or blue marlin. It's your choice.
Who you want to fish for?
And you think about this, right? And we know this, and he preaches this at a high level. If you solve bluegill problems, you're going to make bluegill money. If you solve blue marlin problems, you're going to make blue marlin money. It's the same time. And so like on real estate, we're always like, what's the best return on your time? You solve big listing problems, you make big listing money. With the return on your time, it's not even comparable. You can't do anything else in this business at all, like nothing. And so like you even look at the relationships we took down. I mean, look at the relationship with Home Creations, look at the relationship with Tabor, look at the relationship with Willard. I mean, those are blue marlin relationships.
Yep.
And so what Coach's challenge is that what are the top 5 blue marlin relationships that you have to encounter moving into the new year? And, most people just go right after those little bluegill relationships. But what are those one big scary, man? Like if that person, if I develop that relationship, what doors could they open? And it's so powerful.
100%, man. Most people just don't even put any thought into it, right? They just move forward without any real strategy whatsoever. And it can make a huge difference in your career, being intentional about the relationships you create.
It is, man. It's such a powerful concept. And when you stop, most people just don't stop and think about it. And you know what's cool too? And I think about, these kind of events, and especially if you got to travel, you got to get on an airplane, you have a little bit of time to set and reflect on what it was that, your key takeaways that are going to help solve the problems you're trying to solve in your business. And most of everybody's problems listening to this that will re-listen to this, it's a relationship. You just need a bigger relationship to help you open some doors. And that goes back to, my number one, man, I have a 1A, 1B book recommendation from 2020, but I would say the first one, 1A is the who, not how concept from Dan Sullivan. But, most people ask, well, you're talking about, the gap in the gain and then who, not how. So, well, you got to listen, you got to get your head right first. So you need some gap in the gain before you need to figure out your who. But my 1B, man, and this came up through some conversations even last week, was, Jim Collins' book, Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0. And because most of you on here, are looking to grow, and you're going to need people. You're going to need the who's around you. And, that was the missing chapter that Steve Jobs told Collins about, the original Beyond Entrepreneurship. I think it was 92 or 94. And he asked Jobs, what's missing? He said, what's missing is people. Like you can't do nothing without people. And so that became the new number one chapter in 2.0. And then, of course, leadership and vision. And it really is, man. If you guys are looking for some things to kind of elevate your thinking and elevate your business, kind of looking to consume some stuff over the holidays, there's 3-4 books right there. I mean, cause you could add to it, but I would say Gap in the Gain. I would say Who Not How. I would say 2.0. And if you're struggling, man, I would do Gap in the Gain, and then I would do Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Yeah. I wouldn't add anything to that. That's plenty.
Man, it's just amazing. It's just amazing how those books can shift your thinking and shift your trajectory.
No doubt. Yeah. It's one of the things that, and this is just it's a problem, but it's a different level of problem that I've ever had. And so my focus is where am I investing? Right. And so, I read a lot of books back in the day, you know what I'm saying? And don't remember, most of some of the theory, all the theories, a lot of the theories are the same, but that's just been a challenge. It's like, where should I be investing and how? And there's a lot to learn in terms of especially like crypto opportunities and different things like that. And obviously being down here in Puerto Rico with a ton of hedge fund managers, some crazy opportunities are coming, but like now, how much do you put where? And it's like, what is the right strategy? And so it's, there's a whole new playlist I have that I haven't ever needed, not to the level I need it now. And
God,
so
that's such a great point.
But it's, there's always, and that's, again, having a coach, Coach Burt is, he gave me 2 books just this last week, and I was like, yeah, let's go. You know what I'm saying? Where, you got this time on the bike and all that, just to vacuum up the content, and it's incredible when you figure this part of life out, is that there's always, every problem has a solution. There's always somebody that has been where you're at and has gotten through to the next level you're trying to get to. And there's probably somebody that even wrote a book about it. And so,
100%.
if you get that guidance and a coach to help you along the way and create that plan and stay on that plan, it's just the shortcut to success. I mean, it's, how long do you want to take? You want to try to figure it out yourself, or do you want to have some help?
Man, I don't know if I shared this with you, but if you believe in Malcolm Gladwell's the 10,000 hour rule, and Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power, somebody shared kind of a breakdown of what he was saying. He said the only thing that challenges that thinking is a coach. He said a coach is the only thing that can collapse the 10,000 hour rule. Something that might take you 10,000 hours, a coach might be able to get you there in 8, right? Or if it's going to really take you about 12,000 hours, they might be able to get you there in 10. Yeah. And man, I think back.
Man, I think it's probably even more than that. Like when I think back to the coaches that I've had over the years, and where I was trajectory off, and would have, no different. Like the first time I talked about, thinking that I was following a script. In my mind, I was following the script. And so to me, the leads were garbage, or the script just wasn't working. And so that was at that point in time, if I had not had a coach, I would have stopped doing that activity and probably would have told you for a long time, no telling how long, that doesn't work, right? Because I experienced it and it didn't work. But because I had a coach, and because he listened to my calls, and because he pointed out that I wasn't actually following the script, and he changed it and told me, go do it again and let's see what the results are. And then it worked. I had a whole different paradigm for the rest of my life about calling leads, right? Like that's the difference between so how long would it have taken me to figure it out? And with me thinking buying these leads were garbage, and that, that wasn't going to work, who knows? I mean, who knows if I would have figured it out or not? I'm sure I would have eventually, but when I think of how many years that probably shaved off of chasing down some other ass idea, and that's really where the value is. And man, shoot, I'm grateful for every coach I've ever had. That's for sure.
Man, I think
because you can't see, so it's,
Was
Go ahead.
was that a was that one of those moments where now you had a new belief that coaching is powerful? Because
It wasn't so much at that time. It wasn't so much it wasn't so much that I saw how powerful coaching was at that time. My experience at that time was, wow, look how wrong I was, right? Like I'm, I could, I'm probably wrong more often than I recognize, because at the time I was a young cat, and then, arguably
with success, right? So this is a little caveat, right? So this is,
Yeah.
I think everybody listening, I know where you're going with this,
Right.
but I just want everybody to understand that, like, tremendous success at this point.
Right. So a lot of confidence that I was probably right with what I was doing or what I was thinking. And so that was just like, whoa, okay, you got to be coachable, and that was my big takeaway, was being coachable was what allowed me to see that, okay, there's, if something works for somebody and then I do it and it doesn't work, then I probably did something wrong. That was the takeaway. And so let's go look at what did I do? Where should I have done differently here? Where did I miss, and where am I wrong in what I'm thinking? And so, like, that was a big aha for me. Otherwise, you get confident, too cocky, and you start to believe your own stories. But yeah, it was a big moment for me, for sure.
Yeah, it was. Most people mistake arrogance for confidence, and it was confidence, understanding the difference now, because you were winning, right? You were winning at a high level, but whatever it was, you wanted to win bigger. And so the takeaway that I want you guys to get is that you have to remain humble, and you have to have the humility that you don't know. And as you continue to grow, you have new problems. And I want to back up for a second on the book recommendations. And I hate, I don't believe you should give a book recommendation until you know what somebody's trying to solve. Right. My question, when everybody says, hey, give me some book recommendations, I always say, well, what problem are you trying to solve?
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, nobody answers, because they're not thinking about the real problem they're trying to solve. Right. And so I just want to give a little caveat to the book recommendations, is because I believe, knowing how many agents we've had the opportunity to work with over the last decade plus, is that where most of you are at is that you have a constraint in your thinking. You have a constraint in believing and taking on too much. You need to create some leverage. You need to understand right things, right order. You have to understand its people, its leadership, its vision, its strategy, its priorities, and then how do you execute? And that's what 2.0 will give you. And then you guys are all going to go through shit. You're going to, as you continue to grow, you're going to go through shit in your business. And that's where hard things solve. So I just want to give some context. We're just not giving book recommendations to give book recommendations. We just know majority of you that listen to this, because you're students, you're trying to get better. You wouldn't be listening to this if you ain't trying to get better. And we just know that those are the biggest constraints. And so we know that those, that content, those books, those principles, those ideas, those exercises will help you a ton. So I just wanted to give a little why we're saying those books, and not just say, they're throwing out some book recommendations. But it's the humility, bro. That's the biggest thing that I saw, being humble, to be wrong, to be coachable.
Indeed.
And I will tell you all this, y'all listening in, as you're bringing people on and you're bringing your key people, you better bring them with you. That's the lesson I tell everybody this principle, because I came on board with Cuz in October of 2004. We signed up for the Platinum Proctor Group, for the very first Proctor Group. I remember writing the check, putting the stamp on the check.
It was a big check back then.
$20,000 check. And he said, book the tickets. We're going. Like, I've known this cat for fucking 3 months. And he's like, book the tickets. You're going. Because when you understand that if you want your people to be the best versions of themselves, you have to pour into them.
Right.
And sometimes you don't have the time or the capacity to pour into them yourselves. So plug them in with you.
Right. It would be crazy for me to go to that event and come back and think that I'm going to be able to take that same information and disseminate it to you the way you could have just consumed it with me. right? Like that's the, that's leverage, right? Like if you're investing in people, are you investing in your people, right? You got to, you have to get them, help them to grow at the same pace that you're growing. When you make those investments, they become more valuable, just like you have.
Yeah, it's the number one core value that we look at everybody that we bring in. We have to make sure that they're of growth mindset. If not, you're out.
Peace.
You cannot be here.
Nope.
You are not going to be here. Hey guys, thanks for hanging with us. Hopefully we're dropping some nuggets and giving you guys some distinctions and some takeaways. If you guys have any questions or anything, man, feel free to throw them into the comments. That's what we're here for. Love to help you out. Max, that's Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0. It's a yellow book. Jim Collins. Do not get the original because all of the original content is in 2.0. For sure. Man, did you watch the game last night?
You know what? Last night I did not. For some reason, I just and I knew that was a good matchup too, and I just totally forgot it was Monday.
That Rams D is legit.
Yeah. I saw the highlights today.
They gave Kyler fits.
Yeah.
Fits. It's interesting, man. There's so many teams that are right there in it to make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be a fun next few weeks of football.
How do you define someone that is truly coachable? What characteristics do they need to have? How can you tell if they are not really being coachable? What signs do you look for? Dive in.
So
a book written on this.
First of all, there needs to be a process for how you identify coachable people, right, on the front end of any hiring process that you have. And then there needs to be a process for ongoing for how you're coaching these people to get better in certain areas. How we did it was we had core values that we had them rate themselves to, and then we would rate them, and then we would talk about the differences. I can tell you when you do that exercise and somebody's like, I'm a 10, they're a 10, man, but they just couldn't get any better at anything. Like, they're not even truly self-evaluating themselves. I think of the old sales guy we used to have that never came to a strategic planning meeting with any information. He never did any of the process. And then when I would do his quarterly review and asked him where he was at on core values, and you get down to growth mindset and somebody saying he kept himself 10s on everything. I was like, here's what I gave you. Here's what you gave yourself. And so I'm going to recommend that you probably need to be getting better in this area if you're going to be with us for much longer. And here's the book I would give you, right? And so that that's truly leading and coaching your people to get better. Is getting clarity around what are the core values that you have, and get real clear on that, what that really truly means. How do you and how are you doing in all of those areas? And then give them something to do. And coming out of that quarter, he has an opportunity to read that book. And I shared the story at dinner the other night while we were in Dallas with I literally just got a text message from a guy that used to work for us. I won't say his name, but used to work for us. And I used to have meetings with him, and I used to have a hard time getting my end of day reports from him. That's one thing that if you can't send me an end of day report, you can't work for me. I mean, that's just, it's real simple. That's one of the processes I need to get every single day from you. That's how we're going to work. That's how I'm going to help work and help you and lead you. And we can unpack that later in a second if we want. But he had sent me a text message. I gave him a book. And on about 3/4 of the way through the book, I said, when you get to this page, call me. And I want to talk to you about this one thing or whatever. And so I never got a phone call the whole time he worked for me. And it's been 5 or 6 years since he's worked for me. And he must have finished the book because he sent me a text message with that on it, 6 years later, right? So like this problem, it was time management. This problem has existed in his life all the way up to the point that, now he probably really 6 years after he worked for me, 2 years he did. So maybe 8 years have gone by, and he hadn't ever took that initiative to read the one book that would have probably helped him solve that problem. And, that problem was still existing in his life. So now he's going back to that. Right. And now he's, he's seeking, right. He's finally hit that wall where he's more coachable because he does, he's gone 8 years of time management and not, probably running the gun in from everything. So like, those are just tells. They're tells to me that you're not coachable. Like, if you're not willing to try to get better in a certain area, you're not willing to pick up a book. When we do the core value exercise, when we when we interview, we have 2 people in the company, not the person that's going to be direct report. They directly report to, but 2 other people in the company ask questions, and we create questions as it relates to the core values. And we go through and we ask different people questions. And hey, what was the last book that you read? If they say Dr. Seuss, that might be an indication they're probably not a grower. They're probably they're probably not that coach. They may be coachable, but probably not, because they're definitely not growth mindset. Yeah. And so those are you have to create systems around it, and identify the areas where you feel like they're weak, and try to help coach them through how to get better. And then if they we have another example, a guy that just worked for us for a long time. If I was with him, coaching him up, teaching him the things that were in the book that he needed to read, he would grow with me while I was with him. And then I would leave. And when I would come back, he'd be right here. A grower and someone who's coachable they're going to be up here, because they went and did everything you told them to do. And now that they got a new problem, right? And so they're like, oh, hey, I met you here. Now you're here. Okay, I'll spend more time with you, because they grow. They're this is like, when we went to Mastermind, and one of the comments in the room from the executives in this Mastermind that we're part of, he said, A players are the people that get the job done 90% of the time. B players are the people that you spend time with instead of your family. And I was just like, oh. Like it was like a gut punch, because I knew that there was people that I knew could be A players. Like they were almost A players, but they just weren't. And like I'd spend so much time with them, but in between the whistles, they didn't grow and get anywhere. Right. And so like you got to find those kind of people. And B players are they're hard, because they're not bad. They're a good tool for you, but they're not going to be growers and leaders, and they're not going to certainly lead others. And so
they're tools.
Yeah, and it's they can be a great tool for you, but they're not going to they're not going to grow unless you're pouring into them. Yeah. And that doesn't scale when it comes to growing your business.
No, and we have this belief that we can pull people along, but it's one of those things. We ended up wanting it more than they want it for themselves, and I like taking it layers deeper with some of those people, and understanding and helping them get clear on, their why, their purpose, and what's that bigger picture. And, coach right. Called it, help them, ignite their prey drive. And, for most people, it's like, are you breaking a sweat today? Right. Are you igniting that? Are you getting that going? And then what are you consuming? What are you reading? What problem are you trying to solve with that? And then, the one thing that's really stood out with me, and it's been a couple of years now, I heard this from Ed Milet, was, once you know what your purpose is, it takes 2 things. And I've even thrown a third one in there, but he says it takes 2 things. It takes knowing what your purpose is. And then we all have this person we're trying to make proud, and really acknowledge that and keep that at the forefront of your mind, because that's what helps us sustain the energy when things get rough, is knowing that, hey man, I can't let this person down. I'm really trying to make them proud. But on the flip side of that, we all sometimes need an ignition, right? We need somebody to just like hit that ignition button for us. And that's the person you're trying to prove wrong. And, we always joke, man, it's the person you're trying to give the double kid rock to. And we all have that person. And so and a lot of people are like, oh man, I can't think that way. And that's bullshit. You absolutely can think that way. And you should have that person in your mind, because we all need a fire. Every now and then we need that fire to get us going. And you got to have that person. And so, knowing your purpose, knowing who you're trying to make proud, because that's sustainable. And then who's your ignition. And when you tie those 3 things together, not only for ourselves, but how can you help the people around you ignite that? Because if you do, you might unlock potential in another human being that you didn't even think you could unlock. Instead of trying to pour in them and help them develop skills and things like that, it's like, no, let's get real. Let's get down and like the shit that you're not being truthful about. Let's open that up. And, if they're willing to be vulnerable with you, they're going to be coachable. They're going to do it. If they're not willing to be vulnerable with you, they're not willing to be coachable, you got to make that decision. Do you want to invest time with them or do you want to invest time with your family? That's such the gut, man. That room went silent when Clayton said that.
Man, I instantly went to a moment where I was staying after hours, because I had done better in my second business, with NAEA than I did in my real estate business with getting home at a certain time. And so I remember one day I stayed late and I was working with this person. I felt like I was doing such a good job, in leading that person. Then I realized, oh my God, that's a B player. Like I remembered the time that I got home late and I didn't get to, see my kids before they, it was just an aha moment for me that once you identify that, once you pick that up and you learn that, it'll set you free because
the only other thing to keep in mind, guys, what Jay just said is 100% on the A player. The only thing that you have to add to that is the given pay range that you're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Clayton has the 1 in 3s concept of, those A players can get you to $1 million in revenue. They might not be able to get you to 3 million. So you're going to have to find new A players. And then, if you have aspirations to go from 3 to 10, then, the A players that got you to 3, they're not going to be A players to get you to 10 because it's just, you outgrow them. And, we asked the question to Clay, okay, that concept, but as you, as head of company, as CEO, don't you outgrow yourself? And he's like, no, you're always growing because you have that aspiration and you're pushing for bigger things. So you're always learning. You're trying to figure out how do I make that revenue jump, from 1 million to 3 to 10. And so you're always growing, you're always pushing, or you wouldn't be making those jumps. And so you just have to understand that. And man, I remember I was on the bike during the summer, end of summer, and I was listening to Andy Frisella. Sometimes, you need that ignition from somebody else. And Andy's the ignition sometimes. And he said, man, they were talking about this. They were talking about people. And he said, man, in just typical Andy Frisella fashion, he said, did you leave them or did they not come along? And I was like, got it.
Nice.
Got it. Sometimes they just choose not to come along.
Yeah. And that's okay.
That's okay. Cuz any update on the agent attraction process, video, things going on?
Yes. Thank you for that question. So I'm so freaking excited about what's about to roll out. It's going to be we're literally, I was thinking about it with me and Al and Holly were on a call. And I was like, we're laying one brick as perfectly as a brick can be laid right now. And this thing is going to be freaking badass. It's going to be great. I'm excited, super excited about it. It just to give a little bit of insight, first of all, there was much needed updates to the presentation as it relates to just slides that don't exist. And so we've got that kind of dialed in, a lot of stuff in there. And one of the things that we always found is the challenge with sharing the opportunity is number one, people always think they know what EXP is. That's the biggest challenge. And then, and number two, they don't really know what partnering with us is. And even if they have heard of EXP, they certainly haven't heard of partnering with us. And so that's always been kind of the angle. But we shorten things up a little bit. And at the end of this video, they're going to have a choice which we always teach. This is we're using automation and technology to help you do what you sometimes don't do, if that makes sense. But it's, what did you like about what you saw, right? Like that's the question you would say, what did you like about what you saw? And that helps you to identify, number one, something that they liked and instantly kind of, have a path to take with them, right? And so in terms of conversation. So at the end of that video, they're going to have the opportunity to go deeper on rev share or the stock or the comp plan or all of these different videos where we're going to go into way more detail than we do on the very first video. So there'll be enough content in there that gets them excited, but that, there's some people that want to know more about that right away. And so rather than make this thing an hour and a half long, we've got this thing broke down. All the tracking will let you know what they watch, how much of what they watch. And then the follow-ups and drifts. And then, we've been gathering testimonials. And thank you, all of you that have been doing testimonials for us and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But all that stuff's going to be baked into this thing. It's going to actually have the ability for them to go straight to the application. That's the call to action, as opposed to, hey, go back and talk to the person that sent you to this video. or not having a call to action, it's going to take them and frame in the application, the joint application with you and your picture and your name on the screen. Not in the, we can't integrate into the EXP technology, but we can frame it in and all that. So just making it easier for people to start the process and name you a sponsor. Like, we're solving little problems along the way, with this technology piece. And so it's, I think we're probably, by the end of this month, we're at the stage of recording audios and taking little snippets of certain things and putting them in certain places. And so, yeah, it feels like we're getting close to the end zone. We'll probably do V1 with just the individual agent version, and then there's a team and independence version, right? So that's the next round, and it'll probably take me another month to maybe not. It might go faster than that, but we've got all the testimonials. We're categorizing them if it's a team or if it's an independent, or if what they're saying is related to solving a problem for that segment of the audience. You have, in my mind, and this is how we broke this up, is we were going to do there's three types of agents. There's new, and then there's, successful to a certain degree. There's new and struggling, and then there's successful agents that are somewhat busy. And then there's the teams and independents kind of side of things. And so we instead went with all agents who want to grow, right? So it's like agents that are struggling, brand new age, all the, pretty much everything you would say is the same. And so there are two segments is going to be what it is. So you'll know if they're a team or an independent, then you send them this one. If not, you send them this one. But yeah, it's going to be fantastic. And the automation and the follow-up is all being built, and put in there for that. And it'll be gamified. You'll be able to see your leading indicator and what that result is you're getting, and compare that across what other people are doing. And yeah, man, I think it's literally, it's one of those things. It's really hard for us to see that if what we're doing is moving the needle, unless you do something like this, right? Like you bring in a technology that can literally aid everyone in your organization's ability to have a conversation and that result in a positive outcome. And so very, very excited. I mean, yeah, it's probably one of the best things that we could have probably ever done for the org. So we're excited for you guys.
It's so cool, man. Hofstadter's law, right? Everything takes twice as long, even when you factor in Hofstadter's law.
To do it, you do it if you do it right. We don't have to take a testimonial out and cut it down to the perfect wording that we wanted, and that we have all these assets, and it's like we could either half-ass this, or we could like really nail it. And then like when you say, hey, and this is what you get, and then hey, listen to here's an agent here that just had the same, this has been their experience, boom, and then it plays just a little 15 or 20 second again proof. We're embedding the things we know that works into this process to just to lay one perfect brick every day until we have a wall. Soon we will have a wall. Just that's the goal.
Have you dove into his book yet, Will's?
Yeah, I have, man. You know what? A lot of his stuff. I mean, honestly, if you really want to, you want the Will Smith, that video that's Will Smith that we played all the time. It's like 15 minutes long. Like there ain't no better. That right there is better than his book. This book is really more about his journey. You know what I'm saying? I feel like he documented his entire journey and everything that meant. I think this was more of a piece that was, for him, legacy, because I mean, his story is fascinating. I mean, at a young age, this dude was at the top of the game, but he talks about all his demons and all these things and a lot of stuff that, that would be good. It's a good entertaining listen for sure. But it's not just getting right down to those principles. You know what I'm saying? It's his story. And so, but yeah, it's pretty fascinating. And I'm about halfway through.
Kind of like McConaughey's book.
Yeah. McConaughey's was funnier. That's for sure.
Oh, fucking McConaughey.
Oh man. Yeah.
He's a national treasure. It's what green lights reminds me of is kind of wrapping up the gap in the gain is that thinking, right? And not allowing yourself to get into the gap, but green light, that puts you back in the game, because what Dan Sullivan talks about is that you always measure backwards. And so you see something, and instead of dwelling upon it and creating that unhappiness, you're like, oh, there's an opportunity there. Green light. And if you guys have read The Gap in the Gain, you want to take it a step further, I would recommend McConaughey's book. You want like, all right, guys, I need to breathe from all the business stuff over the holidays. McConaughey's book might be the best, man. It is the most entertaining. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
He is truly the most amazing human being maybe ever. His life, the stuff that he's done, holy smokes. All right, cuz. Well, I appreciate you, man. What a fantastic conversation. I cherish and look forward to Tuesday mornings, and hopefully you guys enjoy jumping in with us, hopefully getting some insights and some nuggets. And man, just what we're here for, to provide as much value to you all. And man, feel free to reach out, and can't wait to see you guys next time.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in.
See you, cuz.
Bye, bro.